Hey Gearheads, thanks for tuning in. This episode is a big one for Dan. On this episode of Dan's Garage, we're going to be seeing if this 1972 Chevelle Malibu runs or not. Let's see what happens. Hey Dan, run that intro.
Hey Gearheads, thanks for tuning in. So it's about time we see what's going on under this hood. Shall we? Whoa. Whoa. So it does look very original in here. It's actually got an air cleaner. You can see air conditioning. It's actually got some lines still connected. You got a Delco battery. We'll have to obviously clean out all the leaves and things that have been living in here. For some reason, somebody took off the rad cap. We can see it's a 2-core radiator, original. Does have the condenser and everything in here. We probably saw that on earlier videos. Battery cable looks alright. Does have belts. Is missing the AC compressor. You can see there's another hose missing off of the valve cover there. Does have power steering, and those hoses are in there. That one going back over there for the air conditioning. We do have power brakes. That looks all original, and the wipers. So it looks like everything is here, even wires and plugs. So the plan of attack is going to be to clean out all the leaves and junk that doesn't belong in there. See if we find anything else. If not, we're going to pull out the spark plugs and put some juice in those combustion chambers to see if this engine will rotate. Hopefully I don't find anything alive in here, but it'd probably be dead if it was alive. Or, well, you know what I mean. Yeah, somebody was living in here at some point. Thankfully it looks like they're gone. This battery is very tiny, and it's a 405 cold cranking amp. So we'll have to probably get a new battery to test that out with. Probably put the one out of the Chevelle in here for now. There's a lot of dirt and stuff in here that does not belong. Look at that, we can see down to the bottom. This is definitely looking a lot cleaner now. Looks like everything's here. The only things I could see missing is the upper radiator hose and the AC compressor. So we'll get some more cleaned out of here and see what it looks like. So here's everything that came out of it. Fill this whole thing up. Well, it's cleaned out for the most part. Still trying not to get things into holes they don't need to be in, but before we make more holes by taking out the spark plugs and putting some juice in those cylinders, I want to see if this thing's going to rotate at all. I need to see if it's seized up, because if it's seized up, then that might seize the day on this operation. But I'm going to go ahead and put a socket wrench on the crankshaft bolt, which I know is a bad idea, but I'm not going to put a lot of pressure on it. If it doesn't move at all, then I'm probably going to go back to the flywheel. I do have a flywheel turner, flex plate turner, so we'll see if that's going to move at all with the correct tool. If I don't have an inspection cover on it, I haven't even checked that. So let's go ahead and see if anything will happen up here first. It's hard to get in here with this fan. I might need to remove it to make things easier, but let's see what we can do first. Alright, hopefully that's a better view for you, so I want to show you what I'm getting out of it. Now, you can see how much it's moving. I mean, it's not a whole heck of a lot, but, you know, if it's been sitting for a while, it's going to take it a bit to be loosened up. But this, to me, means that it's not seized up. Let me know in the comments right now at this point. Stop the video and put in there what you thought, whether it would run or if you thought it was seized up, it's just the bearings or have too much play or something. But I'm going to say that's pretty good. So that's promising. At least it moved a little bit. I'm sure the pistons aren't moving yet. There's probably just too much play and everything. But at least the crankshaft moved a tiny bit. So I'm going to move forward. I'm going to go ahead and pull the spark plugs out, pull the wires off, and I'm going to put some special sauce down in the combustion chambers. We'll let it sit for about 2 weeks, and then we'll come back and we'll see if we can get any more movement out of it. I think I'm going to leave everything else the way it is for right now, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. Alright, so I made this deluxe holder. Not that it matters where the plugs came from, but, you know, I just figured I could look at them once they're out and assess what was going on. I mean, I don't even know what was on that one, but it's got like chunks on it. The rest of them don't look too bad. They're just really dark and kind of charred. This one actually has some metal on it. That's cylinder 8. That one doesn't look too bad. So, none of them are wet, so I'm guessing we don't have an oil leak. Just kidding. So you may be thinking, Dan, you got the spark plugs out, but how are you going to get that special juice in the cylinders? Well, Amazon is your friend. I bought this. This is a really, really deluxe little with the little flexible spout, so I can fill this with juice and get it in there, and we'll do a bunch of squirts. I don't know how much. Maybe I'll just empty this whole thing out in each cylinder. That way, depending on which way the piston is laying, I mean, they're all going to be laying the same way, so I just want to cover it, make sure I can get the whole thing, or I guess put as much as I can in there. Not like fill it up, but, you know, this. So, that's what we're going to do, and I'm probably going to put the plugs back in the engine after I do that, just to make sure that nothing else gets in there. I also want to cover up some other holes. I noticed there was a vent hole in one of the valve covers, so I want to cover that up. And I know the water inlet is still open on the thermostat, so we're going to cover that up. So we'll try to protect as much as we can on this thing. So we'll do this, and then we'll be back. Alright, so it's about 2 weeks later. The juice has been in there in the cylinders, but now we're going to take off the air cleaner, check out the carburetor, and take that off, and put some down in the intake manifold, get it down to those valves. Now, of course, this is going to have a bunch of things connected to it, so we'll try to preserve all that. I don't know when the last time this was off, but we want to try and take it off cleanly, so none of this junk gets down the carburetor. And the swing nut's coming off pretty nice, so that's good. Oh, wow, look at that air cleaner. Oh, and of course somebody's been living in here, so we'll get that cleaned out. There she is. Alright, so of course we got Quadrajet. Looks like there's a lot of webs and junk around it, but it does not look like it's been off in a day or two. So we're going to leave that on. We're just going to open up these butterflies and put some juice down there and let it sit. Ooh, she's moving. So we know it's not seized up. We just got to see if we can get it loosened up to make a whole turn before we start cranking on it. Hey guys, so I got the car moved outside. I power washed it, cleaned it up a little bit. You can see that video by clicking on the link up there. And now we're going to jack it up so I can get to the start, so we can hook up the positive battery cable and also hook up the button for the starter. Make sure it's seated. Alright, so we have a couple of negative cables, so I'm probably going to hook one to the engine, one to the core. I have a positive cable, so I'm going to hook this from the battery down to the starter and also hook up the button to start the car, and then we'll be back. If you're wondering what the button is, it's this little trigger that basically on the other end just has two connectors. Connect one to the positive on the starter and one to the key switch on the starter. And when you pull this trigger, which is a temporary switch, it'll go ahead and crank the engine for you, making it a lot easier so you don't need a second person inside the car. Alright, so I went underneath. This is hooked up to the starter. I guess this is that bolt, nut and bolt I need. I got the trigger hooked up precariously, so I don't want to touch that. I have a ground to the engine, and I have a ground to the firewall. So first I'm going to hook up these grounds with a very technical tool, because I don't have a fitting, which is fine, because if this works, I'll get a, I'll go to Advance or something, and I'll get a battery connector so we can make this work better for when we sell it. But we don't even know if it's going to run yet. Of course it's going to run. Don't give up hope yet. Alright, that's that. Let me get the nut and bolt for this, but we can hook it up. Oh, I see a spark. I'll be right back. That's positive. So, the battery is hooked up to the starter, and the positive wire just broke, but it should be connected good enough. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull the trigger, and we're going to see what happens. No, it will not crank. So, although I don't have my trigger hooked up correctly, the key does work, so check this out. Woo! We're ready for the test. Yeah. And the other good news you can see back there is the distributor is rotating. So we're going to be in good shape soon. Okay, so I'm really happy. This thing cranks, it turns over. That means the engine is not seized up. That means the original engine is going to live on in this thing. Now, we need spark and we need fuel. The fuel, probably going to cut the line and just put it into a gas tank that I know is good gas. And then the spark, we need to check on the distributor and see what it looks like. Okay, so all the spark plugs are tight, so I got the distributor cap. We're going to take the air cleaner off so we can see the distributor, and we're going to put the cap on, put all the wires on, then we're going to spray some Go Juice in here. We're going to pull that trigger and see what happens. Alright, the key is on, all the spark plug wires are on. If the stars are all in alignment and this thing has spark, which honestly I didn't check, then we might get this thing running. So we'll just spray some starter fluid in here. Let's see what happens. Well, it did sputter a little bit, so that's good. Give it a little bit more. Give it some choke. Of course, it'll take a little bit for it to get down into the cylinders. So. Alright, let's check for spark. So to check for spark, we're just going to stick a screwdriver in the spark plug wire, and we're going to hold it right above the ground, and we're going to spin the engine and see if we see a spark. Which we do not, so we need to make sure we're getting spark. Alright, so looking in here a little further, this wire is not attached. So I should probably attach this wire. This wire doesn't look much better, but it does look like it's attached. So we're going to try and attach this one and see if that makes a difference. Alright, back out here on the Chevelle. I got the coil cleaned up. I did test it and it does work, so let's check out some of those other wires. So what I did was I put the coil back in, I reconnected the wires, I put a new end on them. So we're gonna go ahead and hook the wires back up to the battery. The key is on. I'm gonna spray some starting fluid in the carburetor, and we're gonna hit that button and see if it runs. Now, if it does run, it's not gonna stop running because I'm not gonna run back there and shut off the key, but it shouldn't run too well anyway because there's only gonna be a little bit of spray in there. There's no gas in it. So let's see what happens. Spray some fluid down here. Let's see what happens. And the battery is weak. We're going to check for spark if this does not work. Because why would I check for spark first? That would be like doing things in order. We get so excited when we think something's going to work. I'm going to put some charge on this battery, and I'm going to check for spark, and I'm going to check that positive on the coil and make sure that's working. So I just put it on top dead center, and as you can tell, this is the center of the engine, and that's not pointing at number 1, it's pointing at number 2. So I'm going to double check it and make sure I'm not wrong, but maybe that's the problem. I mean, this engine looks like it ran when parked. He said it did also. I know the upper radiator hose is missing, as is the air conditioning compressor, but I didn't think somebody would mess with the, sorry for the shadows, I didn't think someone would mess with the distributor, but I'm gonna double check them on top dead center, and if I am, I'm gonna put that where it needs to be, and then we're gonna try it again. But I did buy new points, a cap, rotor, wires, and plugs, and that'll be the next step if this doesn't do it. All right, so we found top dead center. I got the distributor reset. I did change some of the spark plug wires just because they were longer and shorter. The spark plug wires were in the correct order. And I went ahead and put the valve covers back on with new gaskets that I happen to have, so that's handy to have around all the time. So I know all I did was move the distributor, but I didn't see a spark before, so I really don't expect it to start. But since I did something on it, we're gonna spray it and see what happens. Let's go ahead and spray a little bit of this in here. Trigger. Doesn't sound like anything's happening, so I may need a new points. All right. So pretty much what I thought. I'm not getting spark at all, so I'm gonna double check the coil and I'm gonna put the new points on it. We'll do the points, cap, rotor, plugs, wires, might as well. I bought them, they'll be here in a couple days. So I'll get all that stuff swapped out and then we'll try again. Well, I replaced the points and we have spark coming out of the coil. So pretty sure these points were wasted that were in it. Probably the rest of the electrical system too. So I went ahead and got cap, points, rotor, well I already said points, cap, rotor, spark plugs, and wires. So we're going to do that next. I bet this thing's going to run. Alright guys, we got cap, rotor, plugs, and wires on. Let's see if this thing will start. I'm excited. I think it is. Alright. Got controller, got ground, chassis ground, and engine ground. Up. Key in the on position. going to squirt some starter fluid. And we are going to crank her over and see what happens. Woo! Oh, that was good. That was good. Let's do it again. Oh, she wants to tutor. Whoa! Yay! So this baby's gonna run. I just need to adjust the distributor a little bit, and I think I'm gonna put some gas into it, see if I can get some gas built up in the carburetor, so once it turns over, it'll keep running. So we'll try putting gas in the carburetor first. Once I get it running a little bit better, then I'll cut the fuel line, and I'll put the fuel line before the fuel pump into a gas can. That way it'll have a constant source of fuel. So let's do that next. And then we'll go ahead and squirt some in here. I'll just put fuel everywhere so when it ignites, it'll blow everything up. Alright, let's see what happens. Seen people do this with those ketchup bottles. Maybe I should have one of those. Oh my gosh! It ran! Ha ha! I'm afraid to touch anything. Let's just try again. We'll give it a little gas. Put more gas in there. Alright, so that's awesome. She's gonna run. I'm pretty sure it's just a fuel starvation issue at this point. I just gotta find the right point of the timing to where it'll keep running. So I'm gonna hook up the fuel line to the fuel pump. That way we know we're getting fresh gas into the carburetor. And then I think she'll run. It'll give me a little bit more time to adjust the distributor. And then I think we'll be good. Alright guys, so quick update. I put a gas can in and ran a fuel line to the fuel pump. I primed it. It's coming out the return line, so the fuel pump should have fuel in it. So we may be getting closer to get this thing running and staying running. So let's see. Trying to get fuel out of here. You can see this line here. That's the line coming from the fuel pump. So as soon as I see fuel here, I can put it back in the carburetor and we should have fuel to the carb. So let's see what happens. There's the fuel. Okay. That was the goal, was to get it spurting. Oh, it's always exciting when things like that happen. And you notice I do have a fire extinguisher about 50 feet away in the garage, so if this sucker blew up, we'd be in a little bit of trouble. But we are looking good. Kind of got a little upset the last time I was cranking it and made some noise that didn't make me happy, but when it's running, you really can't hear the noise. So we'll go ahead and, boy, does it smell like gas. We're going to tighten this fuel line up, and now we should have fuel to the carb. So, what's the plan? The plan is to pull the trigger, and hopefully it starts up and runs like a dream. We'll rev it up a little bit,
and then I'll have to take the vice grips off of the ground because I can't really get around to the key because I'm on the trailer, which is really a pain in the butt, but that's where it is right now. So let's see if it'll run for the first time on its own for longer than like a split second. All right, so we got fuel coming out of here. It was coming out of the return line, so I went ahead and hooked the return line back up to the tank. So now fuel should be going back to the tank. At least we'll get some fresh fuel in there. Last step, I don't know, let's see. Dear Lord, please let her run. Woohoo! Who says prayer doesn't work? All right, pop in. We'll get a little less. No, maybe not. And it shuts off with the key. Man, this is so exciting. I'm so happy this car is running. I really hope somebody buys this car and it goes to somebody who's going to restore it back to original. An original engine that's running mostly original car. This sucker is going to be nice. All right, we're going to do a couple more tests. I'm going to start it with the key and then shut it off. And we'll go back by the exhaust pipe, see what it sounds like. See how she works. This is awesome. All right, she's smoking a little bit, but what do you expect after 15 years? Well, guys, I am so excited that this thing actually runs. That makes it even more special. I would love for this car to get completely taken apart, restored back to original by the next owner. So with that, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and change the oil. I'm going to let it run for a little bit before I do that. Hopefully get the smoke out of it and get it running a little bit better. Then I'm going to be going down to the parking lot. We're going to do a full walk around on the trailer, showing you the condition of the underneath and the frame. Then we'll do a full walk around of the exterior and show you the interior. And after that, it's going to be going to auction. So be watching for that next video. Make sure you subscribed on all the social medias to keep up with the cars I'm selling. This one has a title. All original 72 Chevelle Malibu, coming soon for sale. But that's it for this episode. Really, really good episode. Thanks for watching. Stay positive and keep on wrenching.